This video is sponsored by Normandy 1998 and Ash. The flight from Naboo is mostly spent in silence as Luke, Leia and Obi-Wan all reflect on the toll of today, with the only sound being an occasional sniffle from one of the kids when the memory of Jar Jar's death flashes in their mind. Even sleep is no escape from their troubles, as due to their heightened emotional states, both Luke and Leia dream of those they have left behind, suffering terrible tortures in an attempt to find out where the Jedi trio had gone, though whether these are mere nightmares or premonitions granted by the Force, they cannot tell. Finally, after what feels like forever, the blue light tunnel of hyperspace reverts to glowing lines and then to stars, signifying they have reached their destination. And as the twins scramble into the cockpit to see where they are exactly, they are met by an oceanic world dotted with green continents, which looks so much like Naboo, that for a moment Leia wonders if their flight was simply a trick to fool their enemies, and that now that the heat is off they have come back home. Sensing this, Obi-Wan shakes his head, while warning the girl to be mindful of her feelings as they betray her thoughts. This is not Naboo, though it is the home of a dear friend both of his and the twins' mother named Bail Organa, so for the time being, it will serve as a safe haven while they plan their next move. In an attempt to get Luke's mind off things as he's been troublingly quiet even now, Obi-Wan allows him to bring them in for landing, instructing him to approach the landing platform of what appears to be the world's largest palace, or radioing ahead to get them clearance and to inform Bail of their unplanned arrival. As a result, when Sabe's ship comes to a stop, Bail along with a small contingent of household guards are there to greet them, with the Alderaanian senator asking his old friend what's happened, not needing the Force to know that the circumstances of their appearance cannot be good. Looking tired beyond his years, Obi-Wan promises to explain once they're somewhere more private, before introducing his young charges, much to Bail's delight, as he informs the kids that believe it or not, he was present at their birth. Bowing humbly, Luke and Leia both thank the black-bearded man, stating they are grateful for his hospitality, which in turn makes Bail smile that he can see Padme's diplomatic skills in both of them, so it is his pleasure to have them. Making their way into the palace, Bail leads the three Jedi into his study, figuring it is the safest place, as it is the only room he is certain is not under Imperial surveillance, as he has made a habit of performing constant searches and sensor sweeps. Taking a seat across from him, Obi-Wan then at last recounts all that has happened in the decade and a bit they have been apart, with the Alderaanian listening intently and only speaking when the Jedi Master is done, as he breathes that of course the Mountain Palace will always be open to them. Nodding, Obi-Wan graciously accepts this, calling Bail a good friend, though they will not darken his doorstep long, as this is just a temporary stopover. This earns small pats from both Luke and Leia, much to the Senator's amusement, as he chuckles that he wasn't aware Jedi training allowed pouting, while a touch more severely, Obi-Wan replies that it doesn't. Though looking over at his young charges, he sighs that they want to explore the palace, don't they? In unison, the twins nod, and when Bail gestures for them to enjoy themselves, the kids dash off, with Leia agreeing that she's going to see the palace grounds while Luke giggles that he's going to fetch R2 from the ship and scan the walls for secret passages. In spite of himself, Obi-Wan cannot keep a fond expression from his face as he watches them go, with Bail commenting that Padme would be proud of the job he's done with them. Shaking his head, Obi-Wan sighs that he fears it's not enough, since while they are talented with the Force, they're also reckless, and far too swayed by their emotions. Laughingly, Bail retorts that wasn't what he meant, since while he's sure they're brilliant as Jedi, they're also happy, which is what their friend would have wanted for her children. And as for their recklessness, that's unavoidable, or had the old master forgotten who their parents were? The usage of the term were reminds Obi-Wan of something he had admitted while recounting his story to Bail, as he had not wanted Luke or Leia to hear, with him asking if the Senator knows that Darth Vader is Anakin. From the shocked look on his face, Bail had not, though when he speaks it is to muse that it makes sense, considering how rumor has it that Vader's been hunting down Order 66 survivors, and there aren't many who'd be strong enough to go up against the most resilient remnants of the Jedi Order and prevail every time. Looking troubled, Obi-Wan states that this is why he needs to hide the children at all costs, since if what he sensed on Naboo is true, then Vader hasn't necessarily been killing all the Jedi he's encountered, as these new Inquisitors appear to be made up of members of the Order who have submitted to the dark side. Gravely, Bail asks if this submission is willing or not, though the graying Jedi answers that it doesn't matter, since either way, he cannot allow Luke and Leia to fall into their clutches, otherwise there will be no hope for the galaxy's future. Nodding, Bail questions if Obi-Wan has a plan, to which he replies he has the beginnings of one. Once the ship is refueled and they have made sure the coast is clear so they don't bring down unnecessary trouble on Bail's family, he and the children will head to his birth world of Stujon. There they will be able to acquire a small tract of land and pose as farmers while continuing their training. However, here Bail stops his old friend, stating that while this is an option, there is another. He and the kids could stay here and use the good reputation of the House of Organa to avoid suspicion, as this would allow them to continue training while also doing some good. Curiously, Obi-Wan asks how so, which the other man answers that surely the Jedi doesn't think he's the only one who's been working towards freeing the galaxy for all these years. He then pulls a small small encryption device from out of a hidden compartment within his desk, before activating his computer terminal to show Obi-Wan the reams of secret data, including contacts, supplies, stolen Imperial intel, and even plans for coordinated strikes on key installations. Slightly awed, Obi-Wan asks just what this is exactly, to which Bail answers that it's everything his small band of rebels has, as well as the foundations of something more, as all across the galaxy there are dozens of these cells, maybe even hundreds, though currently they are too disparate to do anything. However, if they had something to bring them all together, they could form a mighty alliance, maybe even capable of challenging the Empire directly. Having a good idea what his friend is getting at, Obi-Wan nonetheless asks what this something might be, and as a wide smile crosses Bail's face, he answers, a symbol, a rallying point, a hero. Shaking his head vigorously, Obi-Wan protests that he came here to get away from conflict, not submerge himself in more of it, though sagely, Bail asks just how long he believes he can run, how long before the Empire's cruelty extends to Stujon and Alderaan and everywhere else in the galaxy. Like it or not, conflict is inevitable, so it is better they be proactive, and engage while there's still enough people with the will to fight that they stand something resembling a chance. Sounding tired again, Obi-Wan asks what Bail wants him to do, to which the Alderaanian noble answers that he's had his respite, so now it's time to be a general again. With a hint of his old wry humour, the Jedi retorts that he would hardly consider raising 2 skywalkers respite, though all the same, when Bail offers him a copy of the encrypted data so that he can study it, Obi-Wan does not refuse. And so it is that over the next few weeks, Obi-Wan splits his time between continuing Luke and Leia's training and his work for the Rebellion, though for now he chooses to serve indirectly and anonymously as an asset rather than take any form of leadership role as Bail had wanted, since after the loss of his friends and allies on Naboo, he is unwilling to have anyone else throw their life away because of a misguided belief in the legend of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi. Despite his frustrations with this reluctance, the Alderaanian senator takes what he can get, making use of Obi-Wan's tactical brilliance, with the success rate of guerrilla actions going up several-fold. Nonetheless, the ex-Jedi general still refuses to reveal himself to the other rebels, keeping his work secret from everyone but Bail, including the twins, and conducting everything under the alias Fulcrum, which is a codename Anakin had come up with during the war. However, this is not his only alias, as to the palace staff and guests he is Ben Kryze, with many assuming he must be a displaced Mandalorian following the Empire's occupation. The theory makes no attempt to correct, as it also explains why he has 2 children who are clearly unrelated to him in his care, and why they can at times be seen practicing combat drills on the terrace. Speaking of the children, their growth since arriving on Alderaan has been astronomical, as whether because their first real taste of danger has convinced them they need to be stronger, or because they have nursed the glimmer of hope inside their master and responded accordingly, they have thrown themselves heart and soul into their training. In particular, they have shown considerable improvement in their lightsaber combat, helped considerably by the fact that they now at last have been able to construct their own lightsabers using the remnants of Maul's blade. It is with some irony that Obi-Wan notes how the meeting with Voss did in fact provide him with the pair of kyber crystals he had been seeking, though all humor is promptly drained from the situation when the twins ignite their new sabers, revealing matching crimson blades. Though logically Obi-Wan had known this would be the case, when the red lights reflect on the children's faces, a deep well of fear bursts inside him, as for the briefest of moments, he sees a pair of Vaders standing before him. As a result, purifying the crystals becomes a high priority, though this is easier said than done, as Obi-Wan has no idea how to reverse the bleeding process, due to the last purification having been performed over a century ago. Were they back in the temple, it would be a simple matter to consult the archives, but as it stands they are on their own, and once again, Obi-Wan finds himself not up to the task laid before him. However, this does give him an idea, and so he begins using his growing sway with his new rebel contacts to request that any Jedi artifacts or texts they're able to recover be sent to him. Naturally, this causes many of the rebels to grow excited, questioning if they have a surviving Jedi amongst their ranks, a claim which Obi-Wan studiously avoids on the off chance there are any Imperial spies monitoring them, though just the thought of such an ally is enough to give the rebels hope, with Bail using this as proof that Obi-Wan's highest and best use would be as a rallying point. In spite of himself, the Jedi cannot deny that his old friend might have a point, and so when one of their contacts states that a mutual associate from outside that particular rebel faction deals in antiquities, and therefore might be able to provide Obi-Wan with what he needs if he were to go and meet him, he agrees to do so, both in order to help his Padawans, and to see the effect of his identity on a potential ally. Unfortunately, one thing Obi-Wan had not considered is where the dealer might be located, with it turning out that he operates out of Coruscant in the heart of the Empire. However, recognizing the importance of this mission, Obi-Wan in his Ben Kryze persona with R2 by his side boards one of Bail's freighters, ostensibly hauling cargo, and settles in for a long flight, all the while meditating to maintain his calm. Touching down on the capital world for the first time since leaving it to confront Anakin, Obi-Wan is shocked to find how normal it appears, with people going about their lives with the same hustle and bustle they did when the Republic was in power. Sure, there are now stormtroopers patrolling the streets in place of the clones, and the Imperial crest hangs menacingly from every government building like an all-seeing eye, but beyond that, Obi-Wan may as well have been on a pleasant afternoon stroll down to Dex's diner. Briefly, the Jedi considers checking in on his old Basilisk friend, though remembering the Empire's xenophobic policy towards aliens, he concludes that it's unlikely Dex would still be in business. Instead, he takes the speeder Bale had positioned for him over to the store of his contact, a man named Luthen Rail. As he goes, he gently pats the top of R2's head, inside which is concealed his lightsaber in case something goes awry as it has tended to do of late, with the little droid letting out a concerned whistle in response. Nodding, Obi-Wan concurs that he'll be a lot more comfortable when they're back on Alderaan with Luke and Leia too, though for now they have a job to do, so it's important they remain in the present. After 20 minutes of fighting their way through Coruscant peak hour traffic, the man and his droid arrive at Luthen's store, where they are greeted by an older gentleman with an overly knowing smile that Obi-Wan doesn't like. Nonetheless, he steps inside, and after going through the pageantry of looking at several generic items, is invited into the back room. Only now does Luthen drop his cover, welcoming his guest as Fulcrum, and admitting that while he'd heard rumours that he might be a Jedi, he had not dared to hope he would be a member of the High Council, grinning he must have some very good friends to have kept him hidden all these years. Nodding, Obi-Wan confirms that he does, before asking Luthen about the object their mutual contact spoke of, to which the dealer hastily reveals an old but clearly well-tended datapad. Truthfully, Obi-Wan had been hoping for more, though with another of those crafty smiles, Luthen assures him that it's more than meets the eye, as he got it off a former associate of Gracchus the Hutt, who is a renowned collector of Jedi paraphernalia, so if he deemed it worth having, then it must be of some value. Wisely, Obi-Wan points out that it can't be worth that much if Gracchus was willing to part with it, though rather archly, Luthen counters that he wasn't. That's why the seller was a former associate of the Hutts, and why he was so eager to sell it. Grunting in a manner meant to convey understanding but no opinion on the matter, Obi-Wan asks how much the antiquities dealer wants for the pad, though waving his hand in a friendly manner that reminds the Jedi far too much of the duplicitous Hondo Ohnaka, Luthen tells Obi-Wan to take it as his gift. Nodding appreciatively, the bearded man stows the pad inside his coat with his thanks, though still in that affable affectation, Luthen urges him to think nothing of it. After all, in the current, situation, what is in the best interests of one of them is often in the best interests of all of them. Seeing this is precisely the opening he needs, Obi-Wan asks in that case why he has not allied himself with other cells, as that way they can all assist each other. This time when the dealer smiles, Obi-Wan believes it is real, or at least not entirely artificial, as he states that he knows several leaders in both his group and Obi-Wan's have long dreamed of some sort of alliance to take on their mutual enemy. If he's being honest, he'd always consider the idea of anything more than small exchanges of resources and information a pipe dream, as he doubts men like Saw Gerrera would ever see eye to eye with more idealistic figures like, say, Bail Organa, his innocent tone making it clear that perhaps he knows more about Obi-Wan's group than he's letting on. Though, in light of today's development, perhaps he'll have to reassess his position. Knowing better than to demand more information, Obi-Wan accepts this, thanking the man once more, and turning on his heels to leave. Though, before he can, Luthen speaks up, claiming that he has something else for his guest, a rumour he heard a little while ago about a failed rebellion on Naboo. Apparently, the instigators were all taken to a special prison on Stygian Prime, which according to some reliable and well-placed sources is normally reserved for Jedi captured by the Inquisitors. Now, why would a group of ordinary rebels be taken to a place specifically designed to trap and keep in Jedi? At these words, Obi-Wan cannot help but look back, and as he meets Luthen's gaze, he sees a glint to the other man's eye that he definitely doesn't like, a calculating, testing glint. Having evidently said his piece, the dealer then gives an innocent shrug as if to suggest the answer to such a question eludes him, though knowing better, the Jedi simply nods then departs the store as if nothing had been said at all. Subsequently, the speeder ride back to the ship is also spent in contemplative silence, with Obi-Wan and R2 cloistering themselves back in the cargo hold as they await liftoff. Only when they have cleared the atmosphere of Coruscant and entered hyperspace does the Master speak, pulling out a comlink and watching as Bell's image appears in miniature atop his palm. In a tone of concern, the Senator asks how the meeting went, with Obi-Wan confirming that he met the contact and received a datapad which he will spend the flight combing through to see if there's anything of value, or if this was all a wild bantha chase, or worse, a trap, as from his time working with cloned intelligence he knows that it's a simple matter to install spyware on a device such as this. Nodding, Bell replies that he'll see his old friend back home then, though before he can cut communication, Obi-Wan stops him, stating that he didn't just call to give the other man an update on his mission, he called to thank him for his patience, and to tell him to start reaching out to the other cells. Eyes going wide, Bail asks if this means what he thinks, and nodding seriously, Obi-Wan replies that he's ready to play his part in forging this rebel alliance. And that's where we'll leave things for now. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts, suggestions, or screams of rage in the comments below.